Welcome back to the 50 Shades of Horror. I'm your host, Roommate. Thank you so much for sticking around the challenge this long. Today we've made it all the way to the 9th movie. It's 1990's Tremors. And here's where you can watch this good old-fashioned monster movie. And make sure you stick around to the end of the episode so you get to see what next week's movie will be. Tremors is where this challenge takes a turn for the scarier. It's a monster movie that makes effective use of tension, always keeping us on the edge of our seats. But you ain't fixing to turn around now, are ya? The movie definitely has comedic elements that release the tension when the time is right, but it never becomes silly to the point that you don't take the threat seriously. Sure, the characters are funny when the scene calls for it, but the monsters won't have you busting your gut laughing. And the movie does remain optimistic and positive throughout, with the beautiful country landscapes providing a sense of ease between the most terrifying moments. The main premise of this movie is that a small country town, ironically named Perfection, is under siege from mysterious subterranean critters. The movie is smart enough not to get bogged down in the backstory of these creatures, who they call the graboids, resolving that we won't get to know what they are.
I got it. They're mutations caused by radiation. Or no. Government built them. Big surprise for the Russians.
I vote for outer space. No way these are local boys.
Where did they come from?
I don't know.
You're a scientist, aren't you? Yeah, aren't you supposed to have a theory or something?
Look, these creatures are absolutely unprecedented.
Yeah, but where do they come from?
Doesn't matter where they come from.
Instead, we focus on something more important, the rules to these creatures. They're underground, so they can attack you anywhere, excepting if you're on the rocks. They listen for vibrations in the ground, so any noise you make will draw their attention and bring them right for you. And they're smart. They learn from their mistakes, so you can't try the same thing on them twice. So the goal's to evacuate the town, which ain't easy when every parcel of dirt in this town is the graboids' feeding ground.
Yummy!
Tremors has some colorful characters. The two main heroes, Val and Earl, have a rough charm about them, making it easy to root for them. They're a superb duo, with Val being young, impulsive, and idealistic, and Earl being older, methodical, and pragmatic.
Catch you later, Chang. We got a schedule to keep.
Oh, yeah. See, we plan ahead. That way we don't do anything right now. Earl explained it to me.
Though they're distinct, they're two halves of a whole, being a couple of modern cowboys, barely eking out a living as hired hands
Handyman, Earl. We are handymen.
for the few people in this small town of Perfection. We get a great introduction to them. We get a visual metaphor for how they fumble through life together, with them both searching for their lighter and their cigarettes before realizing that their partner has the other half. Then there's Rhonda, the scientist that's in town to investigate the strange recent seismic activity. She's a quick thinker, coming up with clever ways to improve their situation, even if she's being ignored.
I think I have an idea.
You know, we're gonna have to come up with some sort of plan. He's just gonna wait us to death.
Yeah, well, I was
Why don't we
thinking
just
if
make a run for it? We outran them yesterday.
Run for it? Running's not a plan. Now, running's what you do when the plan fails.
Who died and made you Einstein?
You guys know how to pole vault!
Plus, she can rock a sweet Ugg from Salute Your Shorts cosplay. And then we have Bert and Heather, a couple of survival enthusiasts whose zeal for firearms gets them mocked early on.
Yeah, Bert. The way you worry, you're gonna have a heart attack before you get a chance to survive World War III.
We'll see.
Before proving to be invaluable once the chaos starts. They're the kind of red-blooded Americans that don't measure their gunshots in meters per second, they measure them in donuts per freedom. The small-town atmosphere means that everyone knows and cares about each other, raising the stakes when anyone is under threat. The best thing about Tremors is the plot structure. This movie is extraordinarily well written from a pacing standpoint. We spend just enough time showing who the characters are, what their current situation is, and how they're fixing to change it. But just as they try to make a move out of town, they're confronted with enough trouble to get them to turn back to warn the people they care about. And when they go to leave again, the gol darn road is blocked. Ain't that always the way? Every scene has its own tension, which gets resolved by the end, but then it leads to a new dilemma. The story gives concrete goals to make each moment exciting. Like in first we need to find a way off this rock, but now we need to speed away. Or we need to create a diversion so that Val can get to the truck to help us escape until that diversion fails and we need a new one. The goalpost is always moving. For instance, we think that there is only one graboid when the first is defeated, but then immediately after that, Rhonda informs us that there are 3 more. So victory always feels one step away before we realize that we have further to go. Now, the overarching plot stays the same from the beginning of the movie till the end. To get out of perfection pronto. So we always feel that momentum pushing us. But the individual tactics and obstacles keep evolving from scene to scene, so nothing gets stale. This escalation is also put to great use with the monsters. In the first 5 minutes, we are only told that there are some unexplained tremors. In another 5 minutes, we see the monster chase Rhonda, but she's unaware and unharmed. After yet another 5, we see the first victim of the monsters, but the official cause of death is dehydration, so no one links his untimely demise to a threat that could menace the entire town. But that's quickly followed up by an attack on the farmer and his sheep. But even then, we only see the build-up in the aftermath, not the moment the graboids attack. After the road workers are attacked, Earl and Val unknowingly rip off a part of the monster and drag it with them, so we get to see it, but only after it's dead. Then when we see the doctor and his wife get attacked and dragged underground, we only get to see one of the monster's tentacles for a quick second. We don't get to see one of the monsters in full until about half an hour into the movie. This slow build-up creates a lot of suspense, and this is made even better by the way the movie establishes all the wrinkles in their plan to stay silent expertly in the background. We see the kids playing with their basketballs and pogo sticks. We hear the shopkeep's freezer loudly malfunctioning, so when these things suddenly become dangerous, we don't have to waste no time explaining the situation. We don't have to risk being confusing or contrived. We can immediately swerve into the peril, and we can focus only on escaping the graboids. And when we finally do get to see the monsters, they become more and more clever. First, hiding on the roof seems like a good idea, until the graboids start destabilizing the buildings. The heavy-duty construction equipment is too heavy for them to overthrow, but then the monsters go and dig a ditch and tip our heroes over. Dynamite fishing sure seems like a good idea. But the graboids wise up and start throwing the bombs right back at them. By making the threat constantly escalate, the tension remains high, as victory always seems unlikely, yet possible. So why'd I go and put Tremors 9th on the list? It's higher than the previous entries because we're actually creating some suspense and shock with these graboids. The movie creates a tense atmosphere. For instance, the idea that the monsters are attracted to sound and movement mean that the characters are frequently put in situations where they have to be still and quiet while the monsters are close by, encouraging the audience to hold our breath until the threat passes. And the monsters sure are capable too, killing about 9 people over the course of the movie. But the movie isn't further up on the list because most of the violence is only implied. Most of the killings happen either partially or entirely off screen. Also, we got the situation where most of the killings is front-loaded, since the final death occurs more than a half an hour before the movie's end, and most of the deaths happen to tertiary characters, keeping the main ones safe. So Tremors is scary, but it relents enough that it can stay relatively comfortable for those who might be reluctant to try horror movies. But do you think Tremors deserves this spot on the list? Do you know about any movies that aren't as scary but deserve to be on the list? Let me know about them in the comments. My recommendation for another Tremors review is from Brandon Likes Movies. He does reactions to movies and TV shows. He's very chill and has experience making films, so he gives insight into the movie making process while just vibing. He may not be exclusively horror focused, but he has some positive things to say about horror.
Then, of course, cannot discount the story, because the story itself was really inventive and clever, which I think is definitely the horror genre's best attribute, is that it's probably the most creative and unique genre out there, because people are always doing stuff that haven't really been done before.
So check out his first time watching Tremors reaction. The link is in the description. Next week's movie is 1999's The Sixth Sense, and here's where you can watch it. Subscribe to Roommate and click the notification bell so you can see dead people with us next Saturday. Tell your friends about this challenge so you can see which of y'all can make it the furthest. Make like a graboid and pull down on that like button. And don't you go thinking that leaving perfection means that we've peaked. There are still plenty of quality movies to come in this challenge. See you next Saturday, and thank you kindly for watching.